Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 498. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what is going on?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together and talk about the books we read this week, if I could speak. Coming up on today's show, we have Absolute Batman issue 18, Absolute Green Lantern issue 12, Action Comics 1096, Green Lantern Corps issue 14, and our Patron's Pick vote winner for the month was Supergirl issue 11, so we'll be trying that again. Now it's the start of a new arc in this post-KO world that we're all living in, so there's a bunch of new arcs starting. So yeah, that's what's coming up. So it's a later week on the show. This is probably going to be a quicker episode, but you know, no worries, we'll have some fun. Just a bit of a heads up, next week Matt will not be here. David will be filling in for episode 499, but Matt will be back for episode 500. Do not worry, everyone, and keep the votes coming in of the top 50 characters list. I'll make sure the link's in the description again, but you can find it on the Patreon, on the Discord, to submit your top DC characters. And to the one person who submitted just one character, I get that you love Captain Marvel, but you need at least the top 20, right? You can't just be giving Captain Marvel points and no one else.
At least gimmick it to other members of the Marvel family. You have at least 6 kids, you know, plus Tawny and Uncle, what was his name?
That would be very suspicious if I get Dudley, I think is the one you were looking for, but
Uncle Dudley,
if I got like a list of 20 and it was all Captain Marvel related characters somehow, like I don't think I can name 20 Captain Marvel. I could get up to maybe 10, like maybe a dozen, something in that range.
I mean, you got to start factoring villains and whatnot, and then are you extending it to Black Adam?
Right? Yeah, Black Adam's absolutely a Captain Marvel related character.
Yeah, so no like, I you know what? I could probably give you a top 15 if we're counting all 6 of the kids. You know, really,
you can name me 15 Captain Marvel related characters off the top of your head.
I might have gotten into a hole right now because I'm running through them, the ones I mentioned. Because Freddy, I can't count Freddy twice, right?
No, you cannot. No. By all means, Matt. So the floor is yours.
Yes. That's okay. I definitely should have set it lower than 15. I should have gone maybe to 10. I can do 10 easy.
Well, yeah, you got 6 kids, right? So you get them out of the way quite quickly. Yeah. I'll just give you the benefit of the doubt and assume you know all 6 of them. And then you've got, Black Adam, foster parents, Uncle Dudley.
I mean, if we can really count the parents, but I mean, I'm looking at the Tawny.
Yeah, that's an obvious one.
You got Mr. Mind.
Mr. Mind. There you go.
Yeah.
So you get to 10. Yeah, I believe you can get to 10, but 15's like, unless you've got like an encyclopedic knowledge and this is your favorite character, so all you've done is read Captain Marvel shit your entire life. I don't believe you can get past 15.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to think of some of the other villains that showed up during John's run, and I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Never.
But yeah, at least just don't. I mean, that's cool. I want to know who's the world's biggest Captain Marvel fan that did this, because you know what? Props to you.
I'll be honest. I don't want to. I think I can check the emails of who've submitted things, but so I'm not going to go and check who it is. But I've got a sneaking suspicion they thought they maybe had to enter them one at a time and then just hit enter after the first one. That's possible. It may not have been them trying to scam the system, but I'm watching. Right, I'm watching.
I'm going all in on Billy Batson.
Oh dear. So yes, we'll get to things. But it was Friday the 13th once again this month.
Yep.
That's the beauty of having one in February, is that you're probably going to have one in March unless it's a leap year, because you get the exact same days the following month. And I noticed that you did watch a Friday the 13th yesterday, Matt.
I did. I had some issues because I didn't know what I wanted to watch, because you know, last month we watched Jason Goes to Hell, and so I don't need to watch that again for ever, probably. And we watched the reboot, and I was like, man, I don't know what to watch. Like, I couldn't get a bead. And so I put it out on social media, and one of our friends was like, hey, Livs has that Alice Cooper song, so you should watch Livs, or Jason Lives Part 6. And I was like, you know what? That's a good point. But I almost watched The New Blood. And I noticed that's what Pete had watched when I checked on Letterboxd later on in the night.
I watched
that would have
two.
been serendipitous.
Yeah, I watched 7 and 8. Did a double feature.
Oh yay!
Yeah.
I love 8 so much.
Yeah. And in case you were curious, Jason kills 15 people in 7, but beats that slightly with 16 in Jason Takes Manhattan.
There we go.
The only reason why I was counting is because I was watching it on stream with the audience, and I did dice rolls for everyone, and then there's like, whoever gets closest to the amount of kills. I felt really bad because someone got like a 6, and I'm like, there's no way it's going to be near a 6. It's not happening.
Were you using a D20?
Yeah, D20.
Yeah.
I was using a D20, and I was just ignoring if it was 5 or lower because I was like, there's no way it's going to be that low. There's no point in paying attention to that.
Not that one. Rewatching 6, which I've watched 6 quite a few times, you realize how it's quintessentially Friday the 13th, but also not very Friday the 13th. Like, there's very little nudity and gore and that type of stuff. However, the way that the director chose to show Jason, it's very much with him sneaking around and doing the stalking kind of deal that we get later. Tommy's a pretty good character, the sheriff, all this other stuff. There's good things in there, but it's not like, if you're going for that good Friday the 13th, like, let's cheer him, slashing some teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, I like 6, but it's a little on the wink wink comedy side. You know, a little bit meta humor almost, and Seven's not a great movie, but it's kind of grown in me the more I've watched it, because especially when we get to the third act and she goes a full carry on his ass, it's like, this is actually kind of fun.
Well, and also the girlfriend is this one of the biggest, like, meanest teenagers.
Melissa, yes. Well, she's not even his girlfriend. She's just a girl who decided she wants him and just keeps trying to like lure him away from the main girl of the whole movie, and every single turn he's like, I don't like you, leave me alone.
She sucks. She sucks so bad, and it's very, I love when there's a character that you can root for Jason to kill. Oh yes, right? Because especially when you get 7 and 8, you're looking for those, you're looking for him to pad his numbers. So the more terrible characters, the better. But no, 7's real good. I probably should have watched it, but I do still have a lot of fondness for 6, because I do tend to like more of that wink wink nudge nudge kind of stuff. But yeah, I didn't leave disappointed or anything. And then when that was done, I decided to read some comics to get ahead, and then I started to watch I think it's from '81 slasher called Madman. And because it always gets brought up in like the best Friday the 13th movies that aren't Friday the 13th. And I crashed out on the couch. It was a long day. I moved 2 pallets of paper at work. It was a whole thing. So I got to go back and watch that. But I noticed, I think you've seen that one.
I have, yeah.
So
it's been a while, admittedly, but I've seen it.
So, but yeah, because I always check on all these old 80s ones. I always look to see what my friends have seen.
If I was to recommend some slasher movies from the 80s that aren't Friday the 13th, I would recommend The Prowler. I don't know if you've seen that one. But that one's got really good kills in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Prowler's really good because it has a sense. There's a sense of suspense and dread in that one because they play with the fog. With the killer.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing, all of these other movies, even if they have good kills, they have good other things. The one thing they don't have is they don't have the star power of like Jason. Like they don't have, like, the killer doesn't look as good as Jason does, but the kills are really good in that movie. So I would recommend that one if people have got access to it.
Yes, Prowler's real good. I also like The Mutilator. Mutilator's pretty good too.
That's cheesy fun. Yeah. I don't mind the Mutilator.
But yeah, I'm starting to run out of 80 slashers that I haven't seen, thanks to Pete. Because he'll suggest things and then I'll go and watch them, and now they're off of the list.
Oh, there's always more to find, don't you worry.
When I say 80 slashers, I'm talking the quality ones. I'm not talking the Z grade, stuff that's out there. That I know you'll always find that stuff.
I bet there's some good ones you've not seen yet.
Yeah?
I bet.
Okay, well, we'll have to go over. Well, I'm sure I'll come into them. I always consult with Pete on these. It's how I ended up watching Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Oh,
which is one of my favorite experiences, because at a certain point my wife looked over at me and goes, "What the hell is going on?" I said, "I don't know, but I love it." This is great.
It's also it's just full of those tropey things where it's kind of making fun of the genre a little bit, because like the 3 teen girls go to a house to like spend the weekend, and they just like have a pillow fight in their underwear, and it's just like, why are you doing this? But it's like, it's weird. And also, weird slasher franchise, and that all 3 entries are directed by women, which you wouldn't expect, but they all have just a little bit of tongue-in-cheekness to them because of that.
That's how I ended up on Mad Men, because I wanted to see Slumber Party Massacre 3, because I guess that one has to do more with out and camping type deal, like out in the woods, more than the other two. Second one's at a lake house, and the first one's at a regular house in the suburbs. But yeah, that's what led me. Another one that people haven't seen that's really good is Sleepaway Camp 2. That one's a very wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh, it is, yeah. That was the meta, like, we're doing kind of Scream humor way before Scream did it.
Like, the killer kills somebody with a chainsaw, and the killer kills someone with a butcher knife while wearing a mask, and then a machete. So 3 different kills representing the 3 major franchises. Yep. At that time. Yeah.
And the first one is worth watching as well. It's not as good overall, but it's definitely got a memorable moment or two.
Also, the beginning, I love just the setting of the tone and the guys playing, I think it's softball and the short shorts and the crop top. And it's just a whole like different vibe. And the eat shit and die, eat shit and live. That type of dialogue back and forth. But
it's also funny because it's a summer camp slasher movie, which you think, oh, it's just Friday the 13th. But it does one thing that's very unique that Friday the 13th basically never does. 6 is kind of the exception, weirdly, but 6 doesn't really use it as much, is that the kids are actually there. There's actually kids all over this place, and the kids are the ones being killed. Friday the 13th doesn't, it's always like just before, or by the time you get to like 6, 7, 8, or maybe not 6, but like 7 and 8, it's just kind of like, oh, this is a house that's by the lake. It's not actually the camp anymore. Oh, this is another, this is a boat that's leaving the lake somehow. You know.
So I went a couple years ago, and AEW wrestler Allie, or the Bunny, her and her husband at the time, the Blade, were doing a signing, and so I showed up in my Friday the 13th.
Did they get divorced?
Yeah, they're no longer together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's super, super awkward online, which neither of them addressed it, but judging from their social media posts, they are no longer together.
Okay.
And so Allie's a huge horror movie fan, so I wore one of my Friday the 13th inspired kind of shirt. So it's from Violent Gentleman, which is a hockey company. And it looks like it's an homage to Takes Manhattan. And we had talking about it because it's one of my favorites. And I told her, I said, do you ever notice that Camp Crystal Lake goes from this little puddle, kind of just a regular sized lake, to a lake in which a cruise ship can fit on? And she looks at me, she goes, I've never noticed that before. Next time I watch it. And then so I was looking at her social media the next Friday the 13th, and she goes, shout out to the guy that had pointed out, now it's a lake that can fit on a cruise ship. So yeah, that was one of my great moments as a Friday the 13th fan.
Yeah, although notably, I don't think that ship in 8 it looks like a cruise ship. It looks like a sort of like fishing vessel, but then they show like, oh, there's a disco inside, and there's like a shuffleboard, and they're like, this feels like this is the boat you got for your budget, not that boat that actually would have these things on it.
No, it's very much the boat that they are using for the outside, like the hero boat, is like a ferry boat that takes you in between, right? You're not meant to stay on it long term. It takes you from point A to point B. You can park cars on it. And it's very much a ferry vessel. Yeah. But still, Camp Crystal Lake barely, like in most of the other Friday the 13th, barely can have like a boat that pulls a water skier on it and a wakeboarder, right? This thing's a big old ferry, even if it was a fishing boat.
And it connects to a river now, so it can leave the lake, I guess. Okay.
And it's still supposed to be in New Jersey, which as far as I know, New Jersey doesn't have any rivers that connect to the ocean, which is why New York, right? Like, is there, because it connects to the Hudson, and that takes you inland. So who knows? But we're looking for logic in all the wrong places.
Well, yeah, but New Jersey's on the other side of the water, though, right? Because there's water separating them.
Yes, but it's not. There's, as far as I know, there's not an outlet to the ocean for New Jersey that takes you to Manhattan. Anyways, now there might be to the Atlantic or whatever, but not to the area where they're going. But again, he also kills somebody with a guitar. All right. Like it's just fun to point out, which is why it's my favorite horror franchise.
It also takes them all night for this boat trip, and I feel like it wouldn't be that long because it's New Jersey to New York. Right.
So, but yeah, and it always comes out between Halloween and Friday the 13th. So before someone hits me with the, oh, I thought you loved Friday the 13th, once Halloween season comes around, it's like, I love them. They're like my children. I love them both equally for different reasons. Right. But yeah, Jason just a little bit more. You know, remember in Iron Claw when the dad would rate the sons? and tell them they're placing every morning.
Well, it wasn't raised. You said your top ranking, but you could go up if you get in my good graces.
Yes, that's how I feel about Jason around Friday the 13th. And then when Halloween rolls around, Mike starts making a push. So But yeah, that's Friday the 13th is one of my favorite franchises for all the silliness and where it goes to. I mean, he went to space. Like, come on, this is great.
That he did. But yeah, so that was the highlight of the week, everyone. It was Friday the 13th. I was still playing Resident Evil 9 though, because that came out not too long ago, and I've been doing more of that, which has been fun.
Yeah, I watched a murder documentary with my wife that took up 2 nights. That was very, very unfulfilling, which is how most of them go nowadays, because you never get a sense of closure. And I was like, man, I could have watched a bunch of other things. That said, I've kind of seen everything I want to right now. Oscar season's coming up. It is the Academy Awards. As we record this it's tomorrow. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I think I'm pretty caught up.
It'll be a few weeks before I'm done with all my 2025 catching up movie watching, because we're doing a 2025 season on Collector's Cut, and we've got a few more weeks of that left. So there's still a few. Some of the ones that I'm most anticipating actually I've still to get to.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that. But we've been doing a bunch, and there've been ups and downs. Some I've liked, some where the review that just went out this weekend was for The Mastermind, and it's one of the most boring movies I've seen in years. Like I was not fond of it. So
Yeah, I'm sitting at the spot where like Sinners and One Battle After Another were both in my top movies of the year, stuff that I enjoyed, and they're both up for a bunch of awards, right? So like, even if I were to care about winners and losers, which I don't really anymore, right? I used to get really worked into that. At least movies that I liked are being recognized by the general audience and whatnot. Whereas time before, I always had to explain what these movies that I liked were. But yeah, it's definitely one of those weird seasons where there's nothing really I want to watch, and the stuff that I would need to get caught up with, I don't feel like Hamnet. I don't want to watch that. I'm okay. I'm not big on Shakespeare, and I'm not big on dramatic tragedy, so that's okay. If it's great, I'm glad. Jessie Buckley, I heard, is great. That said, I do need to see The Bride, because I need to know if it's as bad as everyone's saying. So
it's divisive. It's
yes.
People are having variety of opinions on it. We did do it on streams this past week, so
okay. Well, when we're done, I'm going to talk to you because I don't want to spoil your review. But
yes, I know
friend to friend, you can tell me.
I know my opinion, so
yes,
and you can know my opinion too if you go check out the episode, everyone.
Yes,
of Streams After Midnight.
Please go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. We should maybe talk about what the rankings were on the books this week.
Oh, again, I knew you loved the ComiXology top 10. You've denied it for so long.
I don't, but I do feel like we could just keep talking movies, and that's not the point of the show. People want to hear us talk comics.
That's true. We only have 5 books, so I was happy to let the opening pad a little bit more than normal. I was like, we talk about Friday the 13th for 20 minutes. The timestamps are there. Obviously, I know some people probably don't like when we talk about other stuff at the start, but it's a bit of a tradition now, so I was catching up because this is when we see each other each week, and then the timestamps are there. If you want to skip it, you can skip away.
And it's also nice that I didn't get admonished this week for a weird star ranking via Letterboxd. So
that's true. I didn't notice anything anyway that I watched you having a dodgy rating of. Having said that, if I go to my activity feed on Letterboxd, let's just clicking your name and see it. Here we are. Right, yeah, that's Matt here. 7 out of 10 for Wayne's World 2. Okay, I can live with that, I suppose. No rating, but a love heart for Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh, Josie and the Pussycats are fantastic. I haven't rated it yet. Very much ahead of its time. Talking about a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with right now with consumerism. They were there. Plus, the music's good. As a fan of 2000s pop punk, the music is fantastic. So, yeah.
No, nothing's particularly sticking out to me that I need to chastise you for, but it's a good point though. I'll check this before the show every week and see if there's anything I want to
it's fun.
Give you shit for.
Oh man.
Oh dear. All right. Well, yes, we should get on to the Kindle rankings, formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. Since Matt's so excited by it, he can have a guess for what number 1 was this week.
I'm going to guess absolute Batman.
I cannot believe you would be so right, Matt. You're right. That is number one. Number two
Checks out.
is X-Men United, issue 1.
What is that?
It's Al Ewing.
Right.
No, it's not. It's Eve Ewing. Sorry, I saw Ewing and just assumed.
Look, I just see Rogue in her classic uniform from the cartoon, and my interest is piqued.
Yeah, although they're doing that typical thing where they've got the female character standing kind of with their back to the camera, as it were, so that they can draw her ass. So once someone pointed out to me how often that happens, where you'll get a group shot of characters, but there's not just one woman in this case, there's several others in the group, but sometimes it'll be like 5 characters, 4 men, 1 is a woman, and for some reason the woman is the one that's angled in such a way where the ass is sticking out just for the sex appeal. So
and this is why I'm grateful for Nightwing, because if this was a DC cover, that would be Nightwing.
True.
Throwing ass.
And we could all enjoy and make fun of the Nightwing ass gratuitous shot.
Yeah, whoever did this cover could have easily put Cyclops in that spot, and we could have seen, Cyclops cake here. But, I also Rogue does have that meme with, what was it, Apocalypse?
Oh, and further, I'm not saying they should never do it. I'm not saying they should never be having sex appeal in their covers. I'm just, it happens a lot, and it doesn't feel like this book seems like one that is supposed to have some cheesy sex appeal. It seems like it's a serious X-Men book. So, take that for what you will. Number 3 is Transformers. Number 4 is Action Comics. 5 is Absolute Green Lantern. 6 is Imperial Guardians. 7 is Venom. 8 is Green Lantern Corps. 9 is Supergirl, and 10 is Emperor Aquaman. So 6 DC books in the top 10. Pretty strong going in that front. Elsewhere, Siren's book comes in at number 13. Bleeding Hearts is down at 18, and that's about most of the main stuff this week. It was a light DC publishing week overall. So yeah, there you go. That is the rankings for the week. Nice and straightforward, nothing to really write home about. But cool. All right, let's get on to the books. Absolute Batman issue 18. Scott Snyder writing with Eric Canete, whatever we pronounce that, on the art. So this is the second half of this Poison Ivy 2-parter. Although there's actually, obviously there was stuff in the last issue, the big reveal at the end with Martha and the Court of Owls and all that, but I feel like now at the end of the second half, it really does feel like there was a lot in this 2-parter that was kind of important for the ongoing story. Basically, the decision Bruce makes at the end of this issue feels kind of a big step, where he's kind of choosing to let go of his personal life to be Batman, which doesn't necessarily seem like a healthy choice per se, but it does feel very in character for what we think of as Batman, that he would make this choice.
The fact that it feels like Gotham is telling him that it needs Batman more than it needs Bruce, right? Which is something that we typically don't see when it comes to a Batman story, right? Is that we always feel like Bruce needs to keep his humanity, right? Because when he goes full Batman, bad things happen. But this is the absolute universe. So between the fact that none of his friends that got hurt because of Bane, want to see him, right? And the fact that his mom's not that hasn't picked up the phone, right? There's the stuff with Gordon, right? Where Gordon pulls him aside, and all of this. It's just like he had to make a decision, and it seeming like he made a tragic one, for what I feel. So yeah, definitely. I didn't feel like a triumphant decision.
No,
at least to me.
It's like tragic. It's tragic in a personal way, but probably good for people in the city. It's probably good that he exists and he's going to commit fully to being Batman for the sake of saving lots of people, but bad on a personal level, which is, again, it makes complete total sense for the character. It's what we think of with Batman in every way. So we see him try to go back to his friends again. He's turned away at the Iceberg Lounge. Harvey Dent's now missing. They just do not show up, and that's kind of reiterated throughout the book. So when he eventually sees Gordon, and Gordon's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you," and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about you and my mom." And he's like, "Oh, no, I'm not here to talk about that. Yeah, me and your mom are a thing. I'm in love with her, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what we're talking about. I know." And he's like, "What?" "I know."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, How did you figure that out? So, yeah, he's like, okay, look, you're like 6'4", and you're like, I think he says like 400 pounds, and I'm like, he's not that heavy.
No, he says that, yeah, he goes, there's not very many 6'8", 400-pound dudes out there. So I think he was exaggerating a bit.
I think so. But
just like, not many people cut your silhouette, bud. Like, what do you think? Like, you're a personal family friend, which I do like. I like that it's Gordon is the one that points this out to him.
Yeah, but he talks to him, gives try and give some advice that Barbara once gave him about having good foundations, good roots. You know, a tree can only grow tall if you treat the roots well, is what he ultimately says. But it kind of feels like, you know, he's pushed between that advice and then everything that Poison Ivy yells at him about. You know, you could do better. We could take over the city and fix it. You know, if you commit like I am to being just a complete force. And obviously he doesn't become what Poison Ivy wants him to be, but he does ultimately decide at the end of this issue to, like, you know, because the final pages is him not showing up at the Iceberg Lounge, he's not showing up at the law office, he's not showing up in the sewer, which is really sad actually, that panel, because it looks like Waylon Jones has come out of the water and he's like, Bruce, are you here? It's almost like he was wanting him to show up this time, but Bruce isn't there. And he deletes the phone message from his mum that he's been saving to listen to. He hasn't even listened to it. He deletes it and he's like, I'm Batman. And that's kind of like, you know, what this issue ends with, is him giving up what he's got of his personal life. So it's very interesting that obviously in traditional Batman, he lost both his parents. And here, his mother still exists, but he's reached a point as Batman where he's effectively, at least for the time being, choosing to let her go. And like, I'm going to like just not pay attention to the fact that she's alive to be Batman. And it says a lot about the idea of how strong, like, he believes in Batman, or is at this point, because that's the other thing he's struggling with, and why he even asked Gordon for advice. He's like, he didn't expect it to become a symbol that the city would start to like look at, you know, that people would look up to and like, you know, see him as a hero. He had a purpose, he had something he wanted to achieve, but he wasn't doing it to become this figure. But now maybe he has to embrace that and be that figure for the people who are looking up to him. So
it's almost like the choice has been made for him. Right? Like, they're not gonna, now that they have this idea to latch onto, they're gonna force him to be this role model type. Like, you're the one that rises up for us. And that's a weird spot for him to be in. And the stuff with Ivy too is I appreciate that, like, it's not that like she's just trying to take over Gotham at behest of Grimm / the Joker. She's upset with all of that, as well with how she's been experimented on. So they're still keeping her as this kind of neutral figure, right? Where she wants what's best for Ivy and the world, but she's not necessarily aligned with the villain side of things either.
She's kind of well-intentioned at heart, but like obviously she's willing to kill and like take over and mind control and all that. So she's, you know, she has to be stopped, but like you get the intentions behind it all. Quite well, because she clearly hates Grimm. She hates the Joker. She brings him up and says, no, he's the one that kept me, because he's the one that if he sees anything rising with a sense of power that people are looking at and seeing as like a possible change, he you know, puts it down. He put her in a cage with these sound cannons to stop her from being able to evolve, and he's going to come for Batman because Batman's enacting change. Batman's inspiring people, and he can't have that.
Well, and it's the fact that Batman inspired her, because he goes, I was fine until you came running through my enclosure in Arkham, and you're the one that beat him. You got out. And that taught me that I could do it too. So he's even inspiring these experiments. And of course, Grimm's not going to have that, you know? So I do like that it puts him at that place, even with like Ivy and some of these other ones. And you pointed out with that panel with Waylon too. It's like Waylon's the other one that got out, right? And Bruce got him that magic thing that has given him some form of human form, right? So like things are working out well, and it's almost just like he's almost blinded by this at the end, where he's like, I have to be better. And it's that sense of wanting to be better is kind of him looking around, like he's looking too much at the big picture to notice the smaller things.
Yeah, it's that, but also the fact that he's tried repeatedly and been turned away. So he's eventually just said, well, I'm going to like lead into being Batman then. But it's just kind of sad that the second he did that, at least one of the people he was trying to reach out to did try and reach back.
Yeah. Also, Enigma, he's sitting there almost waiting for him to come by, right? Because he's looking at the camera where Bruce is knocking on that door and giving him the riddles. and it's almost just like, oh, they were just always counting on him, or at least Eddie, to swing by. So, I do like the spot that Snyder puts him in, and then that whole thing with Grimm stomping out things that rise up too. It's pretty good social commentary for some of the things that are going on in the world, right? That anytime some form of change starts to come up, the people in the boardrooms with the power are using back channels to stomp that down so they can maintain their control over things. And the fact that this version of Joker is like a literal devil, and he's the one that Snyder's choosing to represent, right? I really like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that stuff's really good. We see kind of the effects of Batman inspiring people, and that Harley Quinn shows up with her group, and is like, hey, we're here to help with this Batman thing. Like, we want to help. So we see that. We see that maybe Dick is planning to do something about him. Maybe he's anti-Batman to start with. That's kind of seems to be what they're teasing right now. But regardless, the idea is that, there's ripples throughout the city. There's an effect here. And this idea of Grimm stomping things down, it fits in with the absolute evil stuff, with all of the, they always get rid of any heroes that pop up. This kind of fits into that as well. Exactly. So, I give it credit, because I think maybe one little critique I had of the last issue was that there was so many different elements it was jumping around to, that maybe it didn't feel as focused on the breaking into the layer that Ivy's in, and be like a super focused like action story like I thought it maybe was going to be. But to be honest, I think this second part kind of like makes all the threads feel like they belong together. It makes it feel like they all had something to contribute to the overall idea of how he's feeling. So when he is walking through the city, and it's like sort of dovetailing into like the narration of another character talking about what's going on in the city, dovetailing into him talking to Gordon, like everything just kind of keeps dovetailing. Really nice. And Gordon even says, you didn't expect him to become a beacon to of light, a beacon in the sky, which is a bit almost nudge wink wink allusion to the bat signal. Now, do we get a literal bat signal in this universe? I don't know if we will. We might not, but this idea of what it represents is already kind of starting to be there.
But the idea that he will show up where he is needed, right? And as of right now, that's Gotham. So just like the final page, it's a whole panel. Him standing up with his big old bat axe with the cape kind of flowing around him. That's this whole like, it's almost kind of like an analogy for the bat signal. Right? Because he's on top of this building, and why he's not like shining or anything, he's looking over everything. Which I do like. Also, we breezed over his mom and the Court of Owls. And it almost feels like the court is going to serve as a pushback to whatever Grimm's working on. Yeah,
it feels like they were a resistance, like an underground resistance to Grimm, but he at some point stomped them down, like kept them from becoming too powerful or whatever. But Martha was this resistance fighter as part of the court, and obviously they kind of tease that the court might be killing her here. Obviously they don't. They show the gun going off. They don't show her dying. She's not dead. There is no way she'd. Her whole thing is like, no, we were meant to stand against this. Like, I don't care if I've broken protocols. Like, this is more important than our stupid traditions, kind of thing.
I love that Snyder brings back the Court of Owls rhyme that he did back during the New 52, and then with the way that rhyme and stuff ends about the Talon coming for your head, and then she reveals that she was a Talon, right? So she was one of these operatives. She was one of the people that they would send to make change and whatnot. And so just the fact that her son ends up becoming Batman, and it's almost like there's a strive that's born into him.
I will say, I'm going to assume that in the Absolute Universe, we're not doing the whole all the Talons are resurrected people angle. I feel like that's not what's going on here with Martha. I think she was I think it's just like a name for the operatives as the Talons.
Yeah.
Here.
And that's what I think too. And stuff, because I don't feel like that's the vibe. I don't think we need to do the whole killing them to revive them to make them these undead things. That would almost make them more of a Grimm experiment than anything. So to have them be these human resistance fighters, right, that are pushing back against whatever, business backed thing that he's doing, I do like. And the fact that they have to go out in the middle of the desert, and when we were first introduced to the Court of Owls, they were, they had these hiding spots in between buildings, right? And they were in the foundation of Gotham and all these big cities. And here it feels like he ripped them out, and now they're on the run. right? So like the fact that they're so far out from everything and that's where they are, and it's very counter to what we would expect. And the fact that she was the Talon, or was a Talon. And yeah, I really like that. Like, again, it doesn't feel like it's something that was fated to be. It just happens to be like this is who she was. She was this resistance fighter. Her husband dies at the zoo shooting, right? And then she instills these things into Bruce, and that's what kind of leads to him to become Batman as well. You know?
I mean, my assumption right now is that she gave up being a Talon maybe when she met Thomas, or maybe just before that, right? This was something she did when she was younger, and then her time as a mother has been like Talon free, but then this is her, going back. So,
because she's a social worker, right? If I remember right.
Yeah,
because she works within the city. Because she was talking about working with Gordon when he was mayor and whatnot. So yeah, so that makes sense. If she was someone that was trying to affect change, then she took her day job and tried to do it through that as well. Which you kind of see with a lot of these type of people that are pushing for change. And when they realize that, you can't do it from there, you end up doing it through your education and getting into positions of power in order to affect change from there. So I do also like that bit of a subset from Snyder. That she never stopped fighting. She just changed how she fought.
Yeah, and then the other thing here is that Ivy, like, they kind of set up that Ivy here will always kind of keep resurrecting. She's kind of this like plant form that will keep growing. And it came from the heart. The heart was the one thing that survived from like the fire and that. But like Batman like realizes, okay, you've still got your real heart. Your real heart's in there, the one that your mother held right before she died. It's in there. And I'm going to burn it. I'm going to destroy it if you don't, do whatever. And Ivy like says all these things about needing to evolve and they could rise up and take, stop Grimm from what he's doing and whatnot. And he kind of like coldly, even though she kind of agrees to stop what she's doing, Batman still burns her heart. And then Barbara Gordon, who's kind of swooped in by this point to help him, and he's like, and also of course says, yeah, don't pull that shit again where you threw me off the building. Like, she's not very happy with that. She's trying to like work with him, and when she's like, hey, why did you still burn her heart even though he's she did whatever, and he's like, well, she said I had to evolve to fight what's coming. I took her advice. And he walks, and it's a very cold moment where he leaves her Barbara standing there, and it does feel like, because that's what leads into kind of the final little sequence of pages where he just becomes like, I am just Batman now. I've given up the Bruce Wayne side of myself for the most part. And of course, I don't think it's for good. I think obviously some of these elements are going to come crashing back into his life and make him sort of face that. But it definitely, for the time being, it feels like no, he's thrown his head deep into the Batman side of the pool, and
it definitely feels like the end of Whiplash, where you're just like, you made the wrong decision, bro. Like, you have greatness, but at what cost?
At what cost?
And I do like the fact that she goes to hand him his mask back, but he has the whole cowl over it, to block all of the pheromones and the spores from Ivy. And so she's left holding this Batman helm. And it's like, well, it's Barbara Gordon. We're getting Robins. Like, is this a bit of foreshadowing? And all this foreshadowing,
type of stuff. Sure. I don't know how soon it's going to be, but I could see it as a little bit of foreshadowing for sure.
Yeah, so, because she's left standing there about like, maybe we, I took her advice, maybe we all should. And she's looking down as he, jumps down from the top of this building. And she's just holding that mask dejectedly.
Yeah, I wonder.
Right? But it's like, oh, he left her with the mask. He didn't take it back.
I could see her going straight to Oracle, though, in the Absolute Universe.
Yeah.
And have, Cass or whoever else be the first Batgirl. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying the opportunity is there for that. They could just go straight to Oracle with Barbara if they wanted to.
True. But yeah, I just think there's definitely some meaning with him leaving her with that, with the mask, right there. And, Snyder doesn't do things by accident.
Because his final line is, I took her advice, maybe we all should, as in we should all evolve. And she's left holding the mask. It's almost like, keep it, because maybe you should become, not necessarily like me, but become something stronger, something bigger, something more willing to fight. And we'll see if she takes that hint, perhaps.
Yeah. I do like how Snyder is moving all these characters around. Like, we got the little blips of Dick Grayson. Babs has been here in and out, here and there. Gordon, his mom. It's a revolving door of these people that are doing like this dance around him. And also, didn't Alfred get a change in directives, and now whoever he works for wants him to make his target the Batman?
Yes, yeah.
You know, because it was Grimm, and now it seems like Batman's going to be a bigger problem, which I think that's very curious. Because like, who sent him after Jack Grimm, and now it's shifting to Batman?
Yeah, because if he wasn't already after Grimm, if he wasn't like the endgame case that he's had for years, I would assume Grimm's like secretly the head of whatever organization he's working for. But Grimm was the first target, but now it's switched to Batman. Unless it's all just like we have someone hinting Grimm, but we'll never catch him, just so we know how much people know about him, kind of thing. So, I don't know.
Right? Very, very, very curious.
One of the other villains, perhaps, from the Absolute Evil, group? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, canonically, with Alfred working for, whoever he does, he's never really been a secret agent, too. So, I mean, it could literally end up being anybody. Like, we know that it's not like Ra's, right? Because there's no tie to Lazarus. And we've seen Ra's in Superman. Because that would have made sense. But I wonder if it's like their version of Checkmate that he's working for. And they're just like, no, we're supposed to keep the status quo. And Batman's, upsetting that. So now I want you to keep an eye on him.
I mean, he's a
bigger threat.
It's definitely Cold Snap, so I don't know why we're doing all this theorizing. Absolute Cold Snap. You heard it here first. Calling the shots.
Yeah. So.
All right. I mean, that's pretty much the book. I didn't really talk about the art, though. Obviously, it's very similar to last issue because it's the same artist. It's okay. Like, it's not my favorite. Like, I definitely miss the regular artist. I miss Dragata, of course, but it's perfectly fine for what it's doing.
I do like the colorist is Frank Martin. I do like the way that it's using these natural kind of muted colors, because like it would be really easy to make like Ivy these bright, toxic, those type, but they're not. They're more these earth tones, neutrals. Like her green's like a pale beige green, right? And so it up against the fire and when all that stuff's going off, it stands out in a different way, which I do like. But yeah, and just like her monstrous form as well, I think is really cool, right? Because she's got eyes and teeth and stuff like coming out of different spots. So, you can tell that the artist, well, I'm not going to butcher his name. We'll just call him Eric. We can tell that Eric was having fun with a lot of the designs here. And again, that last panel / page of Batman on top of this tower holding the axe, and everything has, the blue washout to it and the sprawling city underneath him. It's a really strong image.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite thing about the art is probably just the way that it's kind of doing the montage style stuff, where we're getting like a little, just like a glimpse of each of these characters that Bruce isn't going to see as it's building up to the final page. Like, I think there's some nice structure there to that, which is partly from the script, I assume, but like, I think the art does a decent job of like getting that across, so the effect is there. So that is definitely worth mentioning. But anyway, what are you rating Absolute Batman?
I'm rating this one 8.5.
I am going to go with an 8. I do like it quite a bit. I think if the art was a bit stronger for me, it would go a long way. But I do really like the ending and how it builds up to it here. And I am very intrigued by how we're going to do more with this Martha Court of Owls stuff as well going forward. So super, super interesting. Absolute Green Lantern, issue 12. Al Ewing writing with Jahnoy Lindsay, Prasad, Rao, and Sid Kotian on the art. So yeah, a little team of artists on this one. But this is following up. We've got Hector Hammond controlling Obsidian as like a big suit of armor that's coming after them.
Monster.
Yeah.
I will say, out of all the villains we've been introduced to, like Jack Grimm's the scariest. I think Hammond is the most annoying and the worst. And I love that that's what Al Ewing's doing with him. Because he just sucks. He's like the Elon Musk of the Absolute Universe.
I mean, you're right. He's the most annoying of the Absolute villain. And not in the sense that he's annoying to read, but just he is a person is annoying.
Yes. And again, credit to Al Ewing for choosing to make that his defining character trait, that he just sucks. And, there's no coolness to Hector Hammond. Because like even in Absolute Flash, Eleanor, like she has like this cold, like clinical scientific vibe to her. Hammond has none of that. You know, he's just constantly saying, "Don't tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing," and then messing everything up. And I love that for him.
Yeah, so we get some more flashbacks as well to funeral back in Evergreen. Hal and Joe kind of bonding, him apologizing for not being at the wedding and whatnot. But it's setting up this idea that even though her marriage is falling apart, she wouldn't want to ever give up the ring. And Cameron even says to her, like, why did you keep that ring? Like I got rid of mine. It was like a sense of closure. I sold it, and it was like us saying goodbye to the marriage. But no, it still means something to Joe. It's still like, all the failures of her life, it's still her life, so she's still going to remember them. So it's interesting that the green energy doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a ring here, but it just is for her because it's sort of like become imbued with her wedding ring.
It's almost like her focus piece, right? Like in, like in Inception, they all have that totem.
Yeah.
Right? They're tied to the world. I feel like that's her ring. She has a mental connection with the green energy through this ring, and so I do like that they've made it this thing where, because when we end up getting to Tomar Ray at the end, it almost feels like that's a completely different, he experiences it completely differently.
Oh yeah.
And it isn't necessarily through a ring. So I do like that Ewing is showing us different versions of how these Tomar anomalies interact with things.
Because the ring, because she doesn't have the ring at the start of this issue. It was with someone else, and it was like under the rubble from all the crashing around.
Yes.
And there's a moment here where it comes to her like a traditional Green Lantern ring, but you get the idea that it's only because she has a ring that it does this, but it kind of evokes that traditional idea of the ring flying towards them. Like, you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. It feels like that kind of moment, even though it's not technically that. So that's kind of fun. Cameron shoots the obsidian armor at one point, and it makes Hector's VR helmet give him like a bit of a shock, and he's like freaking out about it. He's like, "No, I'm not weak. Don't look at me like I'm weak." Like, he's such a narcissist. It's really funny. But it's actually, it's Hal who's like, "Oh, there's someone in there," and Cameron's like, "Yeah, he's being controlled." And no, that's not what I mean. He is thing is being controlled, but there's an innocent person in there who is not the person who's trying to kill us. And obviously, once they do, once Joe gets her powers and she separates him, ends up being obviously Todd Rice in there, which we knew as the audience, we've been reading it, but it's just
very astute of Hal. Very astute of Hal to realize that. Now, do you think that was because of his tie to the Black Hand?
Partially,
like, so he kind of sense.
Well, his whole thing here is that he kind of becomes Violet, because he even talks about, because he talks about chaotic energy and how chaotic energy isn't necessarily all bad, and that someone might effectively describe love as chaotic energy because it doesn't follow logic. There's no logic to loving someone. It's something that's purely just what it is. So he kind of like almost like creates violet energy as he like separates the obsidian armor. Meanwhile, Simon Baz is wrapping toilet paper around his face so he doesn't look at himself, which I thought was a funny visual.
Not toilet paper. It's tinfoil.
Oh, it's tinfoil.
Because Chase makes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she makes the case like, oh, so you're also protecting us from the alien thoughts.
Okay, so, that's funny.
I love Absolute Chase. Like, she's she's my kind of character.
But yeah, it's right after he walks it, because he's wrapping it with cling film or saran wrap for the Americans.
Yes.
And like it's after he walks out, you just see the ring rise up and fly off like a traditional Green Lantern ring. So it's kind of an exciting moment if you know Green Lantern, because you're like, oh shit. We're doing like a very typical like Green Lantern moment here where she's like getting her powers and is going to be able to fight this thing. So it's fun. So and then obviously Hal embodies Violet, which is kind of nice and kind of a weird spiritual thing because that's what his girlfriend is in the main universe. So it's like a little flip-a-do, if you will.
And it's almost compassionate as well, because he's like, we need to help them up. There's someone in there trapped. And then he talks about how the Black Star itself is an anomaly, right? So he has all these feelings. Like it's almost like it completely overtakes him, right? But it's because of the other person in there that he's feeling for. And I just, again, I like how Ewing's twisting the lore that we're so familiar with, because it's keeping me on my toes. you know, because I was not expecting Hal to be imbued with the violet light here.
But there's a little nudge and a wink occasionally, though, because at one point in the flashback when he's talking to Joe, he says, "Oh no, you know, I'm selling toys, I've got a house, I've got everything I want." Yeah. And as he says that, he looks up because there's a jet flying overhead, and it's like he's saying, "Oh, what else could I want?" And it's like, "Oh, you could be a pilot, dude."
He could be. I also like him talking about his family and how everybody left, so that just leaves him on his own. And it's that also goes with the, you know, at least from the Johns era, that his family stayed in Coast City, like even after it got destroyed in Reign of Superman and whatnot, and that was a whole thing why he was able to come back, because he has these deep roots there. So the fact that the rest of his family had all left, but he stayed there because, like, what else am I gonna do? Like, that's my home, you know. So you know, it's doing contrary things to the typical Hal Jordan. Which again, when he ends up being imbued with this violet light because of the chaotic energy, you know, it kind of ties that together.
Yeah, and then obviously when Baz shows up after they've gotten Todd Rice out of the Obsidian thing, it's like, "Hey guys, look over the side of the building. There's something you need to see." And of course, the Green Lantern, the big symbol, is now floating above the city, and it's like, "Shit, this is here." And then you see like the orange text come in, or the red text come in, and Tomar Ray calls her, first of all, he calls her Tomar Joe, which I thought was an interesting little touch. And then he's like, "Lantern is a poor translation. A better word in your language is gun." And you get this full page spread at the end of the glowing orange Tomar Ray, who's like, "Anyway, I'm going to go kill Mogo with it. Coming?" And I'm like, do we want to do that? Is that a good guy thing? I don't know if it is, Tomar.
Because just remember, he was the survivor. Mogo tried to get rid of him as well. Yeah. With Sinestro, right? Because Sinestro's piloting Mogo, and Mogo's this being of you know, the dark energy and whatnot, and he is an anomaly. So again, I do like that he called her Tomar Joe, because he's just calling her a fellow anomaly. And yeah, I was being like, "I'm gonna go shoot Mogo with it." I thought that was a pretty metal line. I was like, this guy's crazy. I like him.
It's a hell of a cliffhanger. I mean, I think this issue is really solid because it has all this, you know, it has all the action. It has like the ring coming to her. She gets to feel big. You've got the Violet pivot with Hal. Good character moments for both Cameron and Baz. And then the big cliffhanger. So, I mean, honestly, it's hard to say this wasn't like a fun issue. And then the funny stuff with Hector Hammond being mad that his fight's not going the way that he wants it to is very satisfying. Yeah.
And he won't take, like, other people are trying to give him, like, "Hey, this is how we do it." He's like, "Don't tell me what to do." And Carol, who we think is Carol, right? Have we been confirmed? That's Carol, his assistant?
I don't think we know for sure. Do we?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I can't remember. I read too many comics. But even she's like, "Yeah, guys, just let him be." Because she's seen this too many times, you know, that he just sucks. Also, the energy coming out of the obsidian creature is like blue. And then again, that can't be by accident, right? So again, it's playing with all these different... Is Todd
going to be blue energy once he wakes up?
Because when he wakes up, they're like, he's... where's it at? They go, "Do you know this guy?" Yeah, he's like, he's not in good shape. The green power is being very strange around him. I don't think he's in good shape. And I initially took that to mean it's like, oh, because he saw all of this dark energy dumped into him by Hector Hammond and everything. But seeing that he was throwing the blue lights, and we know what the hope energy does traditionally to the green, he doesn't necessarily see like that it was a bad version of it being acting differently. And Joe did get seemingly a bit more powered up when that stuff started happening. So I don't know. Maybe he is going to be this representation of blue or whatever it is. Like he lived through whatever this experiment was, and now he knows it's on the other side. But yeah, I love our cast of characters in this as well. Like Baz and Chase and just Tomar Ray. And be like, "Yeah, I'm going to go shoot a planet with this thing. Let's go." You know, and they're like, "I don't know, guys. Like, we just met him, you know." And then when we get Guy and John and all that stuff back too, like, I can't wait to get back to that whole, you know, the monk versions of them to see how they factor into all of this. And it's Ewing has slowly, like, methodically paced this out. I'm getting more excited with each issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's been building really nicely. It's not my favorite issue of the book, just because I think the Goldface coming together, those two issues were like, oh, chef's kiss. But this was really good stuff, and I like the build that it's doing. And I'll give it credit. Like, when I saw 3 artists, I was very worried. I don't think it's actually as noticeable as it usually is when there's 3 artists. Like, I can notice a little bit of a change if I'm really looking forward towards the end, but I don't think the styles change dramatically.
I noticed it the most when it went to the flashback.
The flashback, yeah, that's kind of obvious. That's an obvious place to have a different artist for a couple of pages, yeah.
And so that felt like Kotian from the last issues that we've had. And a lot of the action stuff felt like Lindsay. So I don't know where the third artist pops in at. I can't really tell. So, but yeah, it was all handled very well.
It didn't feel like that horrible Green Lantern core issue where there was like 4 artists and it was like all over the place. Like, styles were changing on the fly. You couldn't really tell if one alien was supposed to be the same character page to page. It didn't have that at all. It still flowed quite well and felt like it was in a similar style. Now, obviously, Lindsay's style, I've always liked the layouts. I've always thought the progressions felt really good. The actual art line style isn't necessarily to my taste, so it's not like I love the art necessarily, but it's consistent, more consistent than you would think it was going to be based on the fact that there's 3 artists. So, fair play to that as well. So, no, loving what it's doing. Excited to see where this cliffhanger leads. But yeah, what are you giving Absolute Green Lantern, Matt?
I'm giving this a straight 8.
Yeah, I think I agree with a straight 8. Yeah, straight 8. I was debating with myself, but I think that's right. So, cool. Action Comics 1096, Mark Waid writing with Skylar Patridge on the art. Do you know what I think's funny about this? Is that the cover says, Search for Superman starts here, and it's got a big badge saying Reign of the Superboys, and there is absolutely nothing in this issue that is any different from the previous. There's no sign that we're doing anything to tie into any of that stuff. It's just the next issue of the Superboy story that Mark Waid's been doing.
Yeah. So knowing that we knew about the characters that show up on the cover, I thought there was going to be a swerve. I thought those were just like stand-ins. We're going to make you think that it's Mary and Martian Manhunter and Booster, but maybe it's the Superboys. Maybe that's how timey in. We're doing timey-wimey type stuff. And it's like, no, this is just the next piece of it, and we are getting timey-wimey, but it has nothing to do with the Reign of Superboys.
Well, I mean, it may next issue. Like, we don't know why they're here or how they ended up here. So, like, they could bring up some of the present-day stuff, I suppose. I kind of hope they don't, to be honest, but they could. But regardless, this is just more of the good stuff that Wade's been doing. Focuses a little bit on Lana's dad early on. Talks about how he's a bit of a, he talks to people, but it's almost like he's studying them rather than interacting with them. So there's a little bit of a coldness to him that he kind of like notices. And something weird happens where that lightning kind of strikes a tree, but then the tree doesn't actually explode or the tree explodes, but then the lightning doesn't strike it till later. So it's like, what the hell just happened? And then when Clark goes to the fair again, the expo, he goes with Lana and he goes with Pete, and they're having a nice time. That keeps happening where, like, part of something will happen, but the full thing won't happen. Like, oh, we keep licking the ice cream, but it doesn't look like it's been eaten yet. This other thing, the sound doesn't happen yet, even though I can see clapping. Oh, there's the clapping. And he's like, wait a minute, is this a new superpower? And obviously I'm thinking, no, it's not. And then right away, the narration box says, spoiler, it isn't. And I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad you put that in, just so I wasn't worried that you were adding some weird new superpower. That's good.
Yeah, everything's like a reverse delay. So, like, he hears the balloon pop before he sees it pop.
It's kind of like if you were watching a movie and the video and audio were wildly out of sync, and you were seeing or hearing stuff much later than you were seeing it in the movie. That's kind of the easiest way to describe it. And
knowing what we know about Waid, he loves to play with hypertime. And this seems like this has something to do with the hypertime and whatnot. But yeah, they end up having to go back to that World's Expo, and that's where they're eating the ice cream, and there's this fun little plaque. This is where Superboy first appeared. Lana's
girling out over it.
Yeah. So a bunch of little fun stuff here.
but it even happens to him because he changes into his Superboy outfit without doing anything, and he's like lucky they weren't looking, so he like flies off quickly and like where did Clark go? So he kind of tries to go around and help people in Metropolis, thinking that there's something wrong. And at first he actually gets kind of scared and he wants to go home because it's too overwhelming. But he decides to go back. He realizes he has to like do it. So, so it's just, again, it's a good Superman montage of him helping people, grabbing cars, saving bunnies, the usual stuff.
And his logic on that is, if I'm in my Superboy costume, something has to be going on. So now I'm going to go around looking see what's going on. He finds all this other stuff. But then when he starts to get overwhelmed, he gets reminded of this time where he had put off doing a book report as a kid, where he had to cover like 50 fish. And he starts to panic, and Ma Kent's like, no, I want to take this one fish at a time. And that's what gets him through it. So again, I do like the kind of folksy...
She was remedy. A little bit mad at him, though, because he left it till the night before, and he was supposed to do it. Which, don't get me wrong, very relatable. Do you know how many homework assignments I left to the night before? A lot.
Brother, the worst thing that I could learn was to be a good procrastinator, because I got better grades at the stuff I waited the last minute for than I did on the stuff that I started early. So, yes, I get it. And that rush, I imagine that's what drugs feel like. You know, that I'm not going to get this done, you get it done, and you get a good grade on it. You're just like, ain't nothing stopping me now. You know?
Yeah, I'm unstoppable. The big thing, though, that happens at the end of the sequence, though, is that he kind of gets a glimpse at the Fortress of Solitude before he has it. He's like, oh, I saw something that was kind of like, some fortress. He doesn't really understand.
Yeah. And it's very much the one from the 2025 movie.
It is.
Odd angles,
which is kind of weird because I'm so used to seeing the one from the 78 movie be the basic inspiration for it.
Yeah, the big palace of crystals and whatnot. This looks like ice jutting up out of the tundra, which is super cool. But yeah, he gets a thing, and I do like he's like about like the paradoxes were increasing in intensity. So like just the idea of him going in there before he's supposed to, what would he have seen? So pretty crazy.
Basically, he's like, okay, it must be coming from the expo, and he's getting closer. He's trying to like filter out all the noise, and he gets to these devices that are making this frequency in the middle. He hears people say his name, and when he finally gets to it, there's like a boom tube style effect, and it's Martian Manhunter, Booster Gold, and Mary Marvel, and they're like, he did it. We're here. And he's like, hey, call me Booster. We'll explain everything later, but we got to go. Because like we have to lure him away from civilians, and he's like, who's him? And then we see a big gold looking robot dude. I don't know who this is off the top of my head. Do you know who this is?
No, I don't, but if you look at the shoulders, and they almost look like Superman symbols, right? They're the Pentagon.
Sure. Yeah, a little bit.
Symbols. So I don't know, is this maybe like a rogue Superman robot or a Kryptonian robot of some kind? Or is it like a suit?
Yeah, it's just I always have this worry with this type of splash page where I'm I supposed to know who this is, but I don't. Yeah. So that's good.
Well, because they're doing this whole thing, he's still right behind us, luring away from civilians, and Superboy asks like, who are we running from? And they just say him, and then there's nothing. So I get maybe we're supposed to know, but also maybe not, because it's one of those things like, maybe it'll start to be more familiar once we get there. But this. If this is a suit of armor or a robot character, it doesn't strike a chord.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell
for me.
So I think there's a risk next issue when he actually has to interact with these characters from the future. Like, how cute do they get with references or what they say to him? We'll see if Mark Waid can restrain himself or sort of navigate it with a little bit of tact. This issue on its own, though, is very good. It's continuing what he's been doing here. It's got the learning process, him figuring new things out. The teen friend stuff is good, is been good since the start. And Skylar Partridge's art is still very fitting for it. I will say that splash page where the three characters show up just towards the end, they do look like almost a little bit stilted compared to every other character in the book. I don't know if it's like, oh, they're meant to be from the future, so I'm going to do a slightly different style for them, but they do come off looking a little bit more stiff, I guess.
But I also feel like it's not them. Like, there's something off about them, and maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the art, right? That's the telltale of it, because this is an odd assembly of characters, right? Booster, I get timey-wimey. Even Manhunter with the stuff that we've seen, in Justice League Unlimited, But Mary Marvel doing some timey-wimey stuff with Superboy, that's an odd one. So again, I almost half expected this to be the Legion when we got here at the end, because we were doing Superboy stuff, and them on the cover would be replaced.
I think you're overthinking it. I don't like
absolutely I am.
Until they give me a reason to think that there's something to like not believe that this is really these three characters. I'm happy to believe it because it still makes enough sense to me. Like, why these three? Well, why not? It could be any three heroes from present day. These are just three characters that Mark Waid wanted to write. We know he likes Mary Marvel. He's written a lot of Shazam. So
I love Booster and I love Mary, and I kind of like Manhunter. He's not a favorite, but. So I'm not going to be mad. It's just something feels off. And again, I might just be reading too much into it. Right. So I'm giving my spider sense a tingle, but yeah. And then now they're on this run from this robot thing or suit of armor or whatever it is.
Yeah. We'll see how he tackles this next issue. So, I mean, it's almost like a tough issue to talk about just because it feels like it's all set up for next time. So it's hard to like judge it. Because we don't really have the payoff to anything yet. But, I mean, the build-up to it was good. It was a weird thing that was happening that he was trying to make sense of. And, the art did a good job of, like, showing the confusion of it. I think the first time with the tree, I was a little confused as to what happened until he said a couple of lines of dialogue to kind of, like, help explain it. But from that point on, it was very clear what was happening. And the sense of, like, confusion for Clark was very well presented. So, and I like, I probably like Jean more than I do Booster, to be honest, just to be different to you. Yeah. Mary's my favourite of the three, though. So Mary, then Jean, then Booster. Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Also, like the different, not breakdowns, but the layouts. Here, the Patridge is using, like the one where Clark's getting overwhelmed. And so Clark's in the middle, and everything's kind of coming off of him at different angles.
Yes.
And so it definitely gets that feeling that it's overwhelming, like just even to look at the art. And then as he starts to figure things out, it starts to get more clear as you read. There's less wonky lines and straighter angles and whatnot. So again, I appreciate when the storytelling happens like that.
Well, sometimes it's something so simple. The panel, so when he comes back to the city and he's like saving people, the page after he rescues the dog, he's holding a car that's like sort of going off a bridge, and there's something just simple where the bottom of that panel, it's not a rectangle. The bottom of that panel actually has a sort of just a slight angle to it going down in the same direction as the car falling off the thing. So it just gives this extra sense of like space for like Superboy's foot to stick out. So you get the sense of like the shape of it in a weird. It works. It's a good visual momentum thing.
Yes, and it adds a bit of depth to everything and spacing, so you feel like the car's coming off of the bridge and that he's in space,
it's got a good sense of perspective,
stopping it. So I like Patridge's art a whole lot. So, and I like a lot of these, the Superboy action sequences are really good. But then like when he starts to get to that transmitter and we start going back through things in different parts of the arc, or not even the arc of the story, since Waid's taken over, right? There's him and Lana hanging out, him and Captain Comet, and then with the fire that he helped put out in another issue. It's almost like he's going back through time, right? To get to this point. So again, it really added up to the timey-wimey. You're talking about the perspectives and the angles. As he gets closer to us, right? It's going across that diagonal. So again, it creates a sense of movement on a still page, which is super cool. So, yeah.
All right. What are you giving Action Comics?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
I don't think I'm going that high. What the hell would I go? I think it's bordering on the 8 for sure. I don't know if I quite want to give it the 8. I might go 7.5, just because it's just there's not as like. It builds up to a cliffhanger, and it's the robot that's chasing them's kind of like a nothing burger. It's like, it's just some goofy looking robot. I don't know. Like, so that part of it's maybe like a slight step down. So I'll say 7.5 overall for me. But that's good. Not 4.5 like I was writing down. That was a slip of the button. This is not Hattush. What am I talking about? All right. Green Lantern Corps, issue 14, legacy number 117, Morgan Hampton writing, with, oh god, I've written Skylar Patridge on art. That's not right. I've copied Skylar Patridge's name down twice. Oh yes. No. What have I done?
Let's see. I got Fernando Passarin.
That's it.
On the art.
Fernando Passarin, that's the one. I remember. Which, cool. He's a solid enough house style artist. Nothing earth shattering. Certainly he's drawn the hell out of the bowl cut on a guy this issue. I'll say that much.
This qualifies for thanks, I hate it.
Actually, the biggest thing about the art, and it's not that it's drawn badly, it's just inconsistent with the previous artists, is that the little furry lantern,
the cat.
Yeah, the cat. Well, that's my problem. He was always a cat, don't get me wrong, but here he just looks like a normal cat head, whereas before it was more of like a, like a cartoon cat looking sort of face. It was a bit more accentuated. And here it's just such a normal cat head that I didn't realize it was meant to be the same character as those previous issues.
Until he got bigger and became his more lion form, I was like, oh, that's Narf. Yeah, he doesn't. He looks like just a regular cat, and that's not how he looked. He looked like a anthropomorphic cat before. It looked
like more of like a Hanna-Barbera type cat. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas now he looks, at the very least, it feels like he's got a big chubbier face because they've went with a more natural looking cat head, which isn't necessarily a bad choice, but because I was used to how it was before, I immediately was like, wait, who's this cat dude? And it's like, oh, it's him, okay. So that's a bit of a strain. Although Dexter's there as well, bowing before Guy, because you see, everyone's found out that Guy is seeing the baby versions of the entities, so he's got a bunch of followers now who think he's the prophet, that he's the chosen one, because they're all going to be reborn through his mind or some bullshit.
This is so weird. And I understand putting Guy in this spot because it's counter to what you would normally think. But all of the different lanterns coming up to him and Arkillo, and again, I know not everything's canon, but Guy and Arkillo ended up being buddies. And I can't imagine Arkillo thinking oh, this man's the chosen one, I'm going to bow to him. He knows how much of an idiot Guy Gardner is. And I feel like if anybody, Arkillo would have been all right, we got to figure out a way to get these out of you because you're out of anybody. You should not be a chosen one. So there's some very weird things that I ultimately enjoy, where this is going and them using this as a device to get to the reborn entities. But yeah, man, some of the decisions that they made, very weird.
I mean, I'm kind of amused by it. I like everyone who knows Guy more personally poking fun at him for having this following, and Guy picking who he wants for his team because he's picking people who won't worship him. He's going out of his way. I'm picking Sinestro because he won't kiss my ass. Sinestro will give me shit, and that's what I want. I appreciate that. So yeah, basically Jessica Cruz has called him to her office, and her and Joe are there to basically give him his mission, and do all this stuff. And he's all for it because anything that gets him closer to getting rid of these entities out of his head, which are just annoying him, the happier he is. Meanwhile, the John Stewart side of the story is that him and the missus aren't so in a good place. She's kind of upset that she's been dragged to Oa, and she's had not really much say on anything since they got here. And she wants to go to Korrigar. And John's like, sure, I've taken some time off to spend with you. I'll take you to Korrigar. Let's go do that. So they do. Also, we get a map of Oa at one point in the middle of this issue, which is cool. I'm never going to remember any of these names, but,
No, I definitely spent way too much time reading all of these.
What I thought was interesting is that the headquarters for the Green Lanterns and the Blue Lanterns are both in the state of Viridia, right? Yep. But both the red and the yellow are in the state of Amaranth, and I'm like, red and yellow in the same state? Are you mad? That sounds like a horrible combination. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but definitely. Yeah. And it makes sense with green and blue, right? Because they're complementary.
Oh, sure.
They work together a lot more and stuff. But yeah, and also the fact they're in Viridian, which Viridian's a form of green, right? They're playing with the word structure there. But yeah. I forgot that Katmatui was Korrigaran. In all the different aliens that we meet, I just forgot that's where she's from. So when they end up going to Korrigar, you know, I was like, oh, this is the tie to get back to all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, so the plot of that is basically that when they're there, and she's quite happy, Katma's like, oh, hey, I feel at home here, and even though it's new Korrigar and not original Korrigar, but, you know, that's not an option anymore, so she wants to be surrounded by her people, and they've come across, like, a street fighting tournament, and she's like, oh, this is an old tradition, it's a fighting tournament, and then the winner picks someone out the crowd, and he's like, that doesn't sound like fun, what if I don't want to fight? But this guy named Terror Fist, which is a hell of a name, sounds like Matt's old Pornhub searches, to be honest, but... Wait, what? The delayed reaction to what I just said was beautiful. But, you know, so this Terror Fist wins, and then someone in the crowd volunteers, and it turns out to be Sarnik. And it's like, okay, we're bringing her back in. But very quickly, once she starts breaking this guy's arm, John's like, wait a minute, I'm sensing yellow coming off of her. Like, I need to call this in. This is like this is the one of these anomalies where the energy of the spectrum is erupting somewhere. And sure enough, that turns out to be the case. And John, you know, she recognizes John's there and says, hey, Green Lantern, come over here. And John basically offers to, like, be the host, like, you know, like, possess me instead, yellow entity, and I'll take you where you need to go. So he does, and so we get like this yellow lantern looking John Stewart by the end of this, looking all like, scary, whilst also with a bit of green. It's kind of a mix at the end. Yeah,
there's I do like it. It's the combination green yellow type stuff, which we haven't really seen, because usually when the entities take over, we get like a yellow lantern version of their stuff. But this seems like there's just accents. There's a bit of the Sinestro suit to it, right?
It's more of a coexistence, but the voice of the entity is like talking and be like, oh yeah, this is much better. You've got the willpower or whatever to blah blah blah. So you know, it's fun. And immediately Sarnik looks like she's kind of helping Katma, so it feels like she is back to being like, you know, not just a rage bound, ready to snap arms character.
Yeah, she is a doctor, so it does make sense. Yeah. You know, she immediately pops in.
So yeah, a guy picks his crew to go off on his mission, and you know, Joe's there. We got Ellie, who's a Blue Lantern now, of course. We got Sinestro. We got Aya, Razor, Larfleeze, which I did like when they called Larfleeze. He's just like, yeah, I'm on my hammock. Like, I've got what I want. Yeah. I don't need to be on a mission. Yeah.
I do like seeing them like put this Rainbow Coalition together, because like it does start to remind me a bit of the Blackest Night, when you had all of the main guys having to team up because of Necron, you know. So now there's this coexistence, and now they're all going. So them sitting in this ship around Guy is such a fun visual, because all the colors pop in their own way, you know. And I do, and I know it's because of stuff that's going on in Green Lantern, but just the fact of the lack of a Violet, you know, thing here, it screams that there's two Compassion Lanterns, you know. But you know, that's my own brain.
Yeah, well, but you know, Carol's doing Violet stuff right now, so that's been dealt with.
But now, so they're off looking for the Indigo entity, and they go off there.
Yeah, it's the one battery. It's the one big battery they don't have on Oa. Is the Indigo one.
Yeah, no, it's not the Indigo. It's the Violet.
Yeah.
Yes. But so they're chasing that down. So we're handling that. We know where the yellow one is now, right? So I feel like Morgan Hampton's really economizing us getting through finding the entities, and I feel like it's good that they're not going to drag us.
Yeah.
But for
looking for the Indigo entity has led them in to forbidden space, because it's Manhunter territory. And the cliffhanger at the end is a bunch of Manhunters like, you know, grab them and are like, oh, you're, you know, prepare to die. You've entered our territory. Blah blah. But they do mention though that one of the lanterns is like, hey, look into their eyes. Something else is going on. The Manhunters are feeding on the compassion of the entity. So it's like, oh, it is here. Like, they've definitely come to the right place, but unfortunately it's created a bit of a situation with the Manhunters.
Yeah, so the Manhunters' home planet is called Bayat, and it was supposed to be destroyed, but when they show up, it's been rebuilt. And they're like, this is weird. I feel like we should know something about this. And then they get descended on by these Manhunters who come through, you know, with their whole android selves. And yeah, it seems like they're feeding on the power of compassion, which is definitely weird, you know, to have androids feeling compassion. So I feel like the who's our I almost called her Yara, but Yara's the other compassion lantern. Aya. I feel like Aya is going to factor in heavily here, being that she's also an android. And we're going to get to the bottom of what's going on here.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, and like I said, Passarin's a very house style DC artist. It's very reasonable, but nothing stand out. I would say, you know, there's nothing about like there's the odd good facial expression. Like I said, just a little bit of an inconsistency with how he's drawing. Barf, Narf. Barf, Narf,
Barf, Narf. He is. You know that I think about it, I wonder if Passarin drew him that way because it's very similar to Nort, you know, the dog guy from Justice League International. And I wonder if he just wanted to kind of do his version of that with Narf to make him more of a kitty cat.
I mean,
but it's definitely weird.
Yeah,
you know,
you can't just decide that though. That's a poor choice if you just decide to change it because you felt like doing it.
And that's my big issue with this Green Lantern Corps run. Is just that sometimes the art feels haphazard. The art feels like and all this
very afterthought. It feels like, okay, we've got the story. Let's just throw artists at issues so they get done in time, and that's about it. There's no. It doesn't feel like there's an artist who's like making it their book by any stretch. At least not yet, anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, I do like the general plot direction of both sides of the plot here. I like the John Stewart stuff leading to Sarnik on New Karagar, and I like Guy being given this like misfit team of different lanterns to try and go find the entities. And, you know, this idea that he's got this cult following now because some of the lanterns are now worshipping him because he's the seer. He's the one he's the prophet. He's the one who can see them. He's
the all-sight, is what they're calling him. Which I do like. I like when they do this type of stuff because Kyle's the torchbearer, and if Guy gets to be the all-sight, you know, and we'll get some cool nicknames for Hal and John later, you know. But I do like that they're continuing that kind of vibe.
I will say the first page was a little heavy on like him narrating. He's sort of just describing his backstory for like a page, and it was like a bit heavy. I was like, I don't really need this to be this in depth. Just say I'm Guy Gardner, I'm a screw up, but I got suddenly too important at work. Like, because that was a funny page turn. I got too important at work. That's good, but there was too much build up to it with the text.
Yeah, God, and I really hope they didn't give him the bowl cut because of the Superman movie, because I thought we were past that. You know, then we're beyond the bowl cut.
No, it's back. At this point, it's a bowl cut.
Yeah.
The bowl cut.
That's what he gets for losing the KO tournament. Is now who Superman has made him, you know, through KO in this universe that he has to have the bowl cut.
They do reference. They say he's got alpha energy because he was in the KO tournament, and I'm like, really? We're actually, I don't know. I want to forget it. I want to forget it existed.
If anybody has alpha energy, it's Guy Gardner, but it's not that kind of alpha energy.
No. It's a egomaniac alpha energy is what it is.
Yes.
But yeah, all right. What are you giving Green Lantern Corps?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
I'll give it a 7. I like the story. I like the characters. Obviously, the art's not amazing, and it's not like the most like intricately put together story. But I think there's things here to enjoy if you like this corner of the universe. But it's never going to win any awards or fight for top 10 at the end of the year or anything like that. I don't think. So, but it's just fine. That's a fine thing to be. So. Supergirl, issue 11, Sophie Campbell writing in on art. This was the vote winner pick for patrons this month. You know, to start the first issue of one of the new arcs of one of the... Because there wasn't like new number ones that were worth putting on the vote that we wouldn't already be trying anyway.
Yeah.
So this was just a case of like, oh, this makes sense to maybe put this on as a try. And there is a few references to things that happened in the last few issues, which obviously we haven't read. So, you know, deal with that. But I will say, you know, one of my critiques of this book when I decided to drop it was that it kind of felt like we were doing just kind of fluffy stories that didn't really feel like they were building on anything. I will say this issue does at least feel like it has a story. It feels like it is doing something with those stakes, and I didn't love it, but I think it was better than the last few issues I read of it before I dropped it. I will say that.
Yeah, and I read far more than I probably should have, and they were feeling fluffy and just holiday after holiday after holiday.
I mean, you only missed a couple, I think, right?
Yeah, right. And so I was worried that I was going to be tempted to go back, but I think I'm okay. This is a really good jumping on point because it throws you into the middle of the action. And that...
Can I ask a question though, Matt?
Yes.
Is it just me, or is Leslie like her big defining character trait before was that she had these big hips. She had this big sort of like mum hip kind of body, and I feel like she's the skinny girl now. What happened?
Yep, she's got on the Ozempic.
Like, was this a creative? Because it's the same artist. It's still Sophie Campbell.
It's still Sophie Campbell. I don't know, because the last time I saw Leslie, she cut the same figure.
Yeah,
so I don't know. It was very confusing.
If it wasn't for the outfit, and even then I was still thinking, is this her? Like, did she do some sort of trickery to lose a bunch of weight? What happened?
Yeah, she does look more like redheaded Kara at this point.
She does, yeah. That's a good way of putting it, actually. But anyway, Kara puts on the gold ring that gives her powers, but she's inside Kandor. And goes in there to deal with all the chaos in there. We don't really have good context for why there is chaos at the start, but as it keeps going, this it kind of becomes clear there's this what was it, the black flame, that was it. So there's this character called the Black Flame who's behind this, but Leslie's involved because a lot of her tech's been used, and Supergirl encounters these villains that are sort of made out of her material, like stuff that she's made. So there's a couple of fight sequences there early on with that, but you know, I will say that this issue basically builds up. There's a lot of Kara flying around, dealing with things as she arises, but it's all really about getting to Leslie, and there's like a I miss you too kind of vibe, but it's like, hey, are you involved in what's going on here? And she is involved, and it's all been kind of this Black Flame kind of influence, and it turns out this is her cousin, right? The Black Flame is Leslie's cousin, and she comes out, she's got like the pink, purple hair, purple outfit, all that stuff, and I'll be honest, the thing I liked about this book the most, honestly, because up until this point I was like, this is okay, I don't really like it that much, but I don't dislike it either, it's perfectly fine. But when it got to like this back like third, and it became the Black Flame after she steals Supergirl's ring so she doesn't have her powers, and then she just kicks the shit out of her and stabs her multiple times, I thought, you know what, I appreciate how dark you're making this. I appreciate how much of like a Dark Night of the Soul, Supergirl is going to be at her lowest moment because she gets the shit kicked out of her, she gets stabbed, and she gets thrown off a ledge. And that's the cliffhanger at the end of this issue. And I was like, you know what? You actually surprised me with how just brutal this was for her. And because like I said, my big critique of this book before I dropped it was that everything just felt too fluffy and light. The ending of this was not fluffy and light. The ending of this was, no, you effed her up, and she's going to have to fight back from the bottom to win here with no powers. So it's an intriguing start of an arc. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, well, and the whole thing that the Black Flame is pushing up against in Kandor is like this whole Science Council is doing the same stuff that they did on Krypton, and that they are suppressing people. And she's like, we've had enough. And for Kara, it's almost like she just wants peace in Kandor, and now she's put herself in there. And because she had such a misunderstanding of what was going on, it is now leading to her being at her lowest, right? Stabbed and thrown off. It's almost like in the Black Panther movie when he falls to his cousin, you know, and he gets thrown off the waterfall. And now Kara is going to have to climb her way back up through, you know, again, she's a stranger in a strange land. Like, yeah, she's from Argo City, right? She remembers Krypton, but this is a completely different kind of culture of Krypton, right? Well, and so now she's going to have to try to fit in and go.
Yeah, there's a couple things to bring up here. One is that the council see anyone that isn't Kandoran as outsiders, and that includes Superman and Supergirl. Like, no, they're outsiders. We don't even want to like rejoin the rest of the world and go big again. We want to just be left alone, is kind of their attitude. And the other thing they bring up is that the younger generations in here that were born after they were shrunk down, like, if they go to the outside world, they will actually eventually start to shrink and die because of, like, a mutation, because of they were born under these circumstances. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting little thing I wasn't expecting.
Right.
Okay.
Which I wonder if that's why Leslie ended up going back.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, again, I don't have context for that, but she is back in
maybe that's why she's skinny. Maybe she shrunk. That was the start of the shrinking.
Maybe. That said, let's get her back on, you know. I like when they cut different figures.
Oh, did you miss the hips? You missed the mum hips?
Well, it gave her a defining, feature in her design, right? So when we get to the back, and like, yes, we know the difference between Black Flame and Kara fighting, right? But when you add Leslie into there, again, it just looks like red-haired Kara, right? So she doesn't stand out as much anymore. So, you know,
like I said, though, we might have
something.
We might have stumbled onto a plot reason for it, though, so it's not just you know, make her typical like sexy or whatever.
Yes,
is what it usually.
Well, and again,
would be.
it's Sophie Campbell who's the main creative on this book, right? So I'm sure there's a reason. I don't think Campbell would just undo something.
I'm sure this is just something that we have not read because it was in issues we didn't read, and that's all it is. It's not.
Yes.
I trust in that for sure.
So I did go back and read the blurbs for the solicits.
Oh, for the last couple?
2 issues ago, two ago, it said that Leslie has a secret that she's been harboring. So maybe that is the secret. Okay. And maybe that's why she had to go back, is this genetic disorder that if you leave Kandor, you start to shrink down. So who knows? But yeah, setting up the Black Flame. And I will say with the art, having these hyper visuals of like the yellow background up against the purple and the pink and all of that, it does give it a different feel, right? So it does, even though they're in the bottle city of Kandor, which we're pretty familiar with, right? It makes it feel more alien than it ever has. So again, it really makes Kara feel like an outsider, you know, with all the brightness and whatnot. So, and then as she's falling, we see a very familiar character pop in, and it looks like Boy Thunder is in Kandor.
That's right. That's the other part of the cliffhanger. It also goes to a panel of Lena and I guess that's Connor Kent. I assume.
Connor. That's Connor. Yeah. Which I didn't think about this till I read this issue, is that they are technically half siblings because Lena is Lex's daughter.
That's true.
And Connor shares half of his DNA with Lex and half of it with Clark.
It depends if you count that as
siblings.
A son or not. Maybe I don't know if you count.
Well, no, but like, do we consider Laura X-23 Wolverine's daughter or her sister or his sister?
Well, I think you do eventually count her as his daughter, but that's more because of the relationship that forms rather than because I by default, like just because she's taken from his DNA kind of thing. So
I don't know. I'm going to consider these two as siblings until they start making out in the next issue.
They're not.
Then I'll be like, no.
Just to be clear though, because you kind of jumped in there, is that they're not in Kandor. They're kind of like back on the comms and like, oh, we've lost her. What's happened to her? So that's just to sell the cliffhanger. Yeah,
they're like the support team that's like, report back to me, Kara. You know what's going on in there. But yeah, just seeing those two partner together definitely made me think about Connor's past. I was like, oh yeah, no, he has other siblings that aren't in the super family. So, they're on the Luthor family.
I think the back half of this issue was surprisingly good. That said, though, I can't say that I'm all excited about the idea of Boy Thunder being around in any capacity.
Being that he was Superman's first sidekick, I wonder how that's going to play in. Like, is this even the same character? Because he's wearing a mask, right? Sure. He's very much shielded face, so maybe this is someone that was inspired by Boy Thunder from the time that he was around.
Well, is this just a Kandorian, or is this someone in here with powers? Right? Like, what's going on here?
Right. That's what I don't need to know. Like, is it actually Boy Thunder that Mark Waid created for World's Finest, or is it a Kandorian that's taking on that thing? But I definitely, like, this was one I wasn't dreading it, but I was like, ugh, all right, I'll read Supergirl. And I enjoyed it more than I thought. And if this is how this part of Reign of Superboys is going to be, I feel like I'm invested in this part of it at least.
I mean, it had a sense of direction, which is what was missing from the book in those first like 5 or 6 issues that I read. You know, it feels like this actually has a story to tell. It's a part one of a story at that, but it feels like, there's stakes. She gets the shit kicked out of her. She has to fight back and save Kandor and take down the villain. This did way more to sell me on what was coming next than anything in those like earlier issues did. Which is not to say that I hated all those issues. The first couple I was kind of into, but it was like once you realized, oh, we're not actually building to a big story at any point. Like, we've already dealt with this. Oh, I thought this was going to be an arc. Oh no, we've already dealt with that. Like, it felt like it kept doing that in those first 5 or 6.
Yeah, and where it got to me again, it wasn't. I didn't stop reading it because it was bad. It got to a point where it was aimless, and I was just like, you know, the kind of vibe this isn't a book written for me. There was a very young adult,
aimless
kind of style. Yeah. Then I was just like, look, if I hear good things, I'll pick it back up. And, you know, here we picked it back up because of the vote. And I'm, you know, surprised of how much a change in direction helped this book. Because I think that Campbell's a good writer.
Yeah, I wonder.
I think that there's flashes there. So
Yeah, I wonder if part of this was just like, hey, like this is the story you want to do, but you can't start it until after KO, so you're basically like, oh, like you need to kill time until issue whatever this is, 11. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
You have to basically kill some time until you get to the meat that you actually want to tell. Maybe it's that. I don't know.
Yeah, which makes sense for hitting the October Halloween, November Thanksgiving, and December Christmas issues.
Yeah, they all feel like like standalone specials. Yeah.
Yeah, and they felt like we're just biding time and going into a holding pattern until this can kick off. But yeah, I'm kind of invested in this one, and I'm hoping that the other Reign of the Superboys, although Superboy Prime being part of that, and Superman makes me very hesitant. But let's see. Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it helps that it's on a relatively quiet week right now, but it sounds like you want to read issue 12 next month, Matt.
Yeah, definitely have to. Again, this is a book that I only quit because of it wasn't going anywhere. Now it's going somewhere. So, and again, I like seeing the difference in Krypton and these different cultures. So when they drop in like, oh, they don't like outsiders, even other Kryptonians. That's very antithetical to what Superman and Supergirl represent, right? Of being these type of, with their origin and their type of immigrants they are.
It's got a sense of direction, and it's doing something interesting, and it's actually got a bit of bite, which is all things that were lacking in the first batch of issues that I read. So I'm kind of encouraged. Like I said, like the first half of the issue was fine, but like I wasn't really invested yet. But once it actually got to her confronting the villain, it was like, okay, you've actually got something cooking here a little bit. So I'm also somewhat interested in reading issue 12 next month. So we might very well just have that back on the docket for the time being, at the very least, and we'll see how it pans out. But all right, Matt, what are you rating Supergirl?
I'm gonna do this a straight 7.
I might even go as high as 7.5. I don't want to quite call it great. I think it's maybe just shy of that still, but it's I was pleasantly surprised with the back half of the issue, and it made me somewhat interested. So I'm curious to see if this momentum can keep going, or if it's going to start to just sort of dip back into what I felt it was before. But we'll find that out next month. All right, that'll take us out to the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. So Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
So Action had some couple. I did like the take it one fish at a time message from Superboy in there, and Absolute Batman, of course, had some great action sequences with Batman versus Ivy and stuff. But mine's gonna be from Absolute Green Lantern, and it's gonna be the scene where Hal channels the violet light, and he says, and this is the main one right here. He goes, we're not. It's not about fighting. Action without thought. Maybe it's violence. Maybe it's hate and cruelty and blind obedience. It could be any of those things if you twisted it, or it could be something else, something like love. And then it's just this big explosion of violet light, right? And just that message of that he feels something different, and he doesn't know what it is, but it's this powerful force. And if you twisted it, it could be something else, but it's not. It's like love, and be free and do that. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that one's mine.
All right. My panel or moment. I really like the lantern, the ring coming up to Joe and Absolute Green Lantern. Just feel like it's such a cool thing to do in that book, because it's not like a typical thing there, but it is in like the regular Green Lantern book, so it was kind of exciting to see it happen. So I like that. Having said that, though, I feel like I have to go with the kind of the build to the final moment in Batman, Absolute Batman, with oh, he's not showing up to his friends anymore. He's fully committed himself to Batman. I think that's just such a well-rounded, everything builds up to at the end, that it's hard not to say that, because it's just so satisfying as a storytelling beat. So I'm going to go with that. Cover of the week, I've been having a look here. Not as many books, so there's less options for sure. But there's a couple of good covers. There's a nice Absolute Green Lantern variant from Sanford Green with the all white background. It's just a really nice image with the 4 colors: the green, black, red, and gold. Absolute Batman's got a variant by Declan Shelvey where he basically it looks like a kaiju or something, just like hulking in the cover, all in black, with just a little bit of detail around the spikes in his shoulders. It's very stark and whatnot.
It's ominous.
Yeah. I'll give a shout out to the Supergirl variant by Jeff DeCal, which is Supergirl sort of standing with like a white door behind her, and it's very kind of shaded and detailed, very moody, which admittedly doesn't really fit the issue, but I've never really judged the covers based on how well they fit the issue all that much. I think my pick of the week, though, just because it's a cool little concept, is a variant to Action by Ryan Sook, and it's like these kids have done like Superboy graffiti on the wall and they're running from police, but they've got smiles on their faces. It's just a nice kind of like vibe more than anything. Plus Sook's art tends to be quite nice, so I'm going to go with that. But what you got?
Yeah, so I also want to point out a Supergirl variant. It's by the one by the Dotsons, and it's just it's done in that good Dotsons kind of watercolory, cheesecakey almost, but it's also got crypto in there. I think that one's real nice. And then another Absolute Batman cover variant. It's the Mahmoud Asrar, and it's got this coloring gradient to it where like the background is green and yellow and some slight blues, but Batman's up in the front and he's like tinted purple, and his wings are up, making him look like kind of like a demon. And it looks really, really cool.
I did notice that one. I like how it looks. Bizarrely though, I think I would have preferred if it wasn't purple. I think if he like picked other colors to have the contrast, I think I'd liked it a bit better. But
that could be. But I like it because the colors complement each other real well. It gives it that kind of vaporwave in there. But also, this is one of the weird ones where we line up on cover of the week, because I had earmarked that Action Comics one early in the show. Of the kids with the spray paint, and it's just a vibe, and it also is funny to me because the kid holding the spray paint has a kind of Manchester Black vibe to him, so the idea that like that kind of guy is doing pro Superman graffiti is very funny. So yeah, that's mine.
I think they're just going for like a punk kid rather than him specifically, but yeah,
absolutely. But my brain immediately went to the jacket, the white shirt that underneath. That type of stuff, but yeah, fun.
All right, and then we have art of the week. What you got?
This one's tough, and I have it narrowed down between Action and Green Lantern, Absolute Green Lantern, and because the team on Absolute Green Lantern was really solid. Like you can't really tell much of the difference, but I gotta say for Action, the Patridge art is some of the strongest she's had in a minute, and I think that's why I'm going to give it to Action just a little bit over Absolute Green Lantern.
Yeah, I will say it's not like the strongest week for art, and it's not that the art was bad this week. It's just that compared to some other weeks where I'm like there's like knockouts, I feel like there's no knockouts for me this week. I think Partridge is probably going to take it for me. I think Sophie Campbell's Supergirl art was really solid actually. But I think I was noticing cool things in the layouts with Partridge and Action, I think more than the others. So I'm going to agree with Partridge for Action. But yeah, that's my pick. All right, well, we only had 5 books we read this week, but rank them, Matt. On you go.
All right. So number 1 is going to be Absolute Green Lantern. Number 2 is going to be Action Comics. 3 is Absolute Batman. 4 is... I'm trying to remember if I gave a lower score. 4 is Green Lantern Corps. 5 is Supergirl.
Yeah, I am going to go with number 1. So it's really close between 2 Absolute books, to be honest. I'm having a hard time picking between them. I think I like the ending of Batman more, but I will say Absolute Green Lantern takes number 1 by a hair. Then number 2 is Absolute Batman. Number 3, Action Comics. I'll say 4 Supergirl and 5 Green Lantern Corps. So there you go. I think I swapped my 1 and 2 and 4 and 5 compared to you, but same gist of idea. So I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. Let's have a look-see. We have Absolute Flash, issue 13, Nightwing, 136, World's Finest, 49, New Titans, issue 33, so that's the start of the new run on Titans, which we'll definitely be checking out. Well, I don't know if David's going to check it out next week, but I'll check it out, and Matt's definitely going to check it out, so assuming we like it, and it is Brombal, so there's a good chance we'll want to keep going with that. Lobo issue 1's next week, Batwoman's issue 1's next week, we have Wonder Woman 31, we have Deathstroke the Terminator issue 1, Superman Unlimited issue 11, Catwoman 85, End of Life issue 2, and then a bunch of facsimiles and whatnot. So it's a busy week with those 3 new number ones. I don't get me wrong, going into the week, I'm expecting to like Batwoman because it's Rucka, and the other two need to impress me, because I don't think I'm inherently excited by a Deathstroke or a Lobo book at face value, but we'll do the issue ones, we'll see how they are. And
that Lobo, there was a preview for at the back of this week's books, not making me feel great. I'll say that much.
Yeah, we'll give it a try. And Matt is thinking he will send in some thoughts that I can tell you on the show for next week, so he's not completely absent. But we'll
definitely with New Titans, because it is new, right? And
the issue ones, I think
probably Batwoman. I don't know if Lobo is going to be a priority. Deathstroke, you'll probably hear from me on that one. So and then Wonder Woman for sure, because that's been the go-to. That starts the Wonder War. So I gotta get.
That's true. It's a big issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get my views on that one.
Yeah.
So, and who knows? Maybe I'll send an End of Life issue 2 just to see if it got any worse. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
I'm definitely not reading it, because I'll have Patreon books to catch up on as well. So I'll have a busy reading week next week for sure. And then the following week though is episode 500, and of course we're going to announce the results of the top character list. So just once again, the link will be in the description, so you can vote in that, put in at least the top 20, but you can put up to a top 50 if you like. And I've been seeing those come in, and I've been tallying results so far. Very interesting. But go have a look at that and get them in. Deadline for that is maybe like, say, Friday before episode 500. So you got almost 2 full weeks, but when this goes out, to send them in. So try and get those in, and we'll see what the results are. And me and Matt will be making our own list for the 10th anniversary special, which we'll be doing somewhere around May, because that's when the show started 10 years ago. So yeah. So all that fun stuff to look forward to. But otherwise, this is the show. This has been Comics from the Multiverse. So thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. You can, of course, support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Help keep the show coming every week. We have over there some bonus stuff, like the monthly vote, of course, which Supergirl won. That's why we did that this week. And we just recorded a Batgirl Year 1 issue review. That's our Patreon series that we've been doing. That was the penultimate issue, so we're actually very close to picking a new series for the next one of that in the next month or two, so look forward to that as well. But mainly though, you're helping keep the show coming, but you get a couple of little bonuses for doing so over on Patreon. But that is the show, everyone. That has been Comics from the Multiverse. So we'll see you next week for episode 499. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll keep reading comics. I lost my train of thought there. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.